Out for more mouth-watering real deals. That's in half an hour at 2. First on STV, Monday's lunchtime news.
Harry's back. The Duke of Sussex makes a surprise visit to the UK for a High Court hearing. It's day one of a legal case against the Mail's publishers. Harry and 6 other famous names, including Sir Elton John, are suing for misuse of private information. Allegations Associated Newspapers Limited have described as preposterous smears. Also this lunchtime, how Rishi Sunak plans to stop antisocial behaviour for good and why Labour blames government cuts on causing the problems in the first place. Who will succeed Sturgeon? The new leader of the SNP announced at 2 what it could mean for Scotland and the whole of the UK. Oil spill in Poole Harbor. How did it happen? The latest on the investigation. And
round my hometown, memories afresh.
Las Vegas glory. Adele's surprise for fans. She'll do more shows there this summer.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Nina Hossain.
Good afternoon. Prince Harry is back in Britain. His surprise visit is believed to be the first time he's returned to the UK since the late Queen's funeral in September. He is one of 6 high-profile people in a legal fight with the Mail's publishers, Associated Newspapers Limited, which is being heard at the High Court from today. The group accused the company of illegally getting private information. Associated Newspapers Limited deny the allegations. Ian Woods has the details.
Nothing could send a clearer sign of Prince Harry's determination to confront the media over claims his privacy was invaded than this very public entrance at the High Court.
What's your message to the British press? Good morning.
He didn't need to be here. He's not giving evidence, at least not this week. He dodged both questions and photographers, though not always successfully, choosing to use the main entrance rather than side gates. The Duke of Sussex is one of a group of famous faces suing Associated Newspapers. Sir Elton John and his husband David Furnish, Liz Hurley and Sadie Frost, as well as anti-racism campaigner Baroness Doreen Lawrence. In the last hour, Sir Elton also arrived at court, so he too could listen to the proceedings, which are due to take place over 4 days. In a written submission to the court, their barrister David Sherborne accused the Daily Mail and Mail on Sunday of illegally intercepting voicemail messages, listening into live landline calls, obtaining private information such as itemised phone bills or medical records by deception or blagging, using private investigators to commit these unlawful information gathering acts on their behalf, and even commissioning the breaking and entry into private property. Prince Harry is also involved in legal cases against 2 other British newspaper groups and recently told ITV why he's taking such an active role.
If they want to hold us and the rich and powerful to account and they want to police society, then who's policing them? That's something that William and I have talked about for many, many years. Who is policing them?
Associated Newspapers have always denied being involved in illegal activity. In their submission to the court, their barrister Adrian Beltrami said the claims should be dismissed because they're up to 30 years old. The court should not hesitate to dismiss these stale claims at an early stage, he said, thereby avoiding what would otherwise be a considerable waste of time, costs and the court's resources. Actress and fashion designer Sadie Frost is also attending the court hearing, though she chose to use a side entrance. She and Prince Harry sat at the back of the courtroom while their lawyers debated legal points with the judge. Ian Woods, ITV News.
Rebecca Barry is at the High Court and joins me now. Describe to us what happened there earlier, Rebecca.
Well, this is not a trial, just a preliminary hearing, and there is no requirement for Prince Harry to fly all the way over from the US to be here. But arriving in a black cab this morning, walking through the main entrance of the High Court, he clearly wants to be seen, taking on a major tabloid newspaper group accused of illegal news gathering. In Court 76, it was packed with journalists and lawyers as Prince Harry sat near the back back occasionally taking notes. Usually at a hearing like this, there'd just be a few court reporters taking shorthand as the lawyers argue in legalese. Now, of course, the judge won't be swayed by the presence of royalty, but in the court of public opinion, optics matter. Elton John has also just arrived, and I understand that the other claimants, including Baroness Doreen Lawrence, will also attend at some point during this four-day hearing. They accuse the publisher of the Daily Mail and the Mail on Sunday of blagging people's private medical records, of using private investigators to listen in to live phone calls, and even commissioning breaking and entry into private property. The publisher denies those serious allegations and are attempting to get the case struck out without the need for a trial, and that's what the judge here will decide. Prince Harry in the past has said that the toxic tabloid intrusion helped drive him out of the UK. Now allegations of criminal activity by a newspaper have drawn him back to play out in court what he's described as his duty to uncover, to expose alleged wrongdoing by the British press.
Rebecca Barry, thank you. Banning laughing gas and getting graffiti removed quickly, just two of the ways the Prime Minister has pledged to stamp out antisocial behaviour. Rishi Sunak's so-called immediate justice proposals will see offenders doing community service within 2 days of being found guilty. But Labour says it's government cuts that have caused the problems with drugs and antisocial behaviour in the first place. Our political correspondent Carl Dinnan has the details and the reaction.
The Prime Minister and Home Secretary didn't seem to find anything antisocial on their visit to Essex this morning, although one woman thought their immigration plan was out of order.
Refugees deserve sanctuary in Britain.
The Prime Minister was announcing a new antisocial behaviour plan. Top of his list, a ban on nitrous oxide, also known as laughing gas, for recreational use. Although the Prime Minister's principal objection to it did seem to be on the grounds of littering.
I think, quite frankly, I and almost everyone else is just sick of having to deal with nitrous oxide canisters when they're walking through their communities, right? And it's about being in your community, being in your park, being on your high street, your town centre, and not having to see these things strewn around.
As well as the laughing gas ban, there will be higher on-the-spot fines for graffiti and fly tipping. And so-called immediate justice proposals would see offenders in high-vis vests repair or clean up the mess they had made. Near where the Prime Minister was speaking, this estate has become known for antisocial behaviour. Residents would like to see offenders dealt with, but
got to catch them though, haven't they? They come out at midnight. Yeah, like the rest of the rubbish.
They're never going to catch them. There's so many, so they haven't got anyone to catch them.
There's not enough police to deal with it, and then the police have got no respect by any members of the public or whatever anyway, so it's sort of like a losing battle.
And Labour say it's not much better further up the criminal justice system.
The amount of charges for drugs under the current laws has gone down 50% in the last 10 years. 40% of the trials of drug gangs last year were put off on the day of the trial. That is the reality of the criminal justice system at the moment.
And the decision to ban nitrous oxide goes against the advice of the government's own Advisory Council on the Misuse of Drugs, which said a ban would be disproportionate to the level of harm caused and could have significant unintended consequences. Carl Dinnan, ITV News, Westminster.
The contest to replace Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon is over, as the fate of the three candidates hoping to become the new leader of the Scottish National Party will be revealed at 2 o'clock this afternoon. The Finance Secretary, Kate Forbes, one of the front-runners, was off to a shaky start on the first day of her campaign after she sparked controversy by saying she would not have voted for gay marriage legislation because of her religious beliefs. She has since said she would defend the rights of everyone in Scotland. The bookies' favourite is the Health Secretary, Humza Yousaf, one of the party's most high-profile ministers. Aligning himself to Sturgeon's policies throughout the campaign, he is the only candidate to commit to upholding the SNP's partnership arrangement with the Greens. And Ash Regan is the only candidate who doesn't currently hold a government position after she quit in protest over gender reform legislation. She holds a stronger position on independence campaigning than her rivals and has called for an independence convention. Our Scotland correspondent Peter Smith joins us now from the venue in Edinburgh, where that result will be announced in around 20 minutes' time. Peter, at times a bitter and an uncomfortable contest.
It really has been a bruising contest, but we will find out at the National Stadium for Scotland's rugby team who will be the next leader of Scotland's party of government, as you say, in just over 20 minutes' time. The bookies' favourite is Humza Yousaf. You've described he is the Health Secretary just now. He describes himself as the continuity candidate, and it seems a two-horse race between him and Kate Forbes. She started out as the favourite, but then when she was vocal about her conservative Christian views, she said she would have voted against same-sex marriage. She's not in favour of, personally, of abortions. She would vote against gender reform. She said she's not planning on rolling back any of these rights, but she personally is against them. That proved tremendously unpopular with her own party. But interestingly, according to the polls, quite popular with the Scottish public. So now the SNP is choosing, and it is only the SNP members who have a vote, I should stress, not the Scottish public. But the SNP is choosing between a candidate who is very popular with the party and another candidate in Kate Forbes who is quite popular with the public. It is a crossroads, and it is up to these whoever wins this, the next leader of the party, to convince the Scottish people that they can be trusted to run the country again, because it has been such a bruising encounter. Kate Forbes unleashed fury on Humza Yousaf in one of the debates, criticising his record in government and saying that more of the same from the SNP is an acceptance of mediocrity.
Peter, what impact could the result have on Scotland and the rest of the UK?
This is the big question for everyone in the UK watching this, because the SNP, we know they are the party of Scottish independence. It's fair to say that whoever wins, we will probably see something of a cooling in the rush towards having a de facto referendum on independence next year in the general election. That's clearly what Nicola Sturgeon said she wanted to do. She said next year's general election would be fought on that single issue. Now, Kate Forbes is clear that if she wins, that will not be the case. Humza Yousaf says he's not personally wedded to the idea, but he'll listen to his party before making a decision. He says, though, that if he is the winner, Scotland can be independent in 5 years. And what he wants to do, as Kate Forbes says as well, is build consensus over the next few years, prove themselves to be a proficient party in government, and prove to the people of Scotland there is life in the SNP after Nicola Sturgeon.
Peter Smith, thank you very much. And we'll bring you the result of the SNP leadership election on ITVX from 2 o'clock this afternoon. Just scroll down to the news section on ITVX to find it. Next, the shocking report that shows children as young as 8 are being strip searched by police, and in half of the cases there isn't what's called an appropriate adult present. The research by the Children's Commissioner's Office follows the case of child Q, the 15-year-old black schoolgirl who was strip searched while on her period. The findings show police carried out nearly 3,000 strip searches of children between 2018 and mid-2022. Nearly 40% of children searched were black. The policing minister says the searches are vital because drug dealers get young people to hide drugs in their bodies.
It is important to keep in mind that these strip searches, are often conducted because young people are being coerced and abused by drug dealers and are concealing drugs in intimate body cavities. And these searches are necessary to identify where that's happening and then safeguard the young people concerned.
I'm joined now by the woman who commissioned that report that children's charities have today described as shameful. The Children's Commissioner for England, Dame Rachel de Souza. Thank you for speaking to us. Is there no other way? Is it ever acceptable to strip search a child?
Look, I think what my research shows is we need a much higher bar for strip searching, and we need the police to follow their own rules. So following the child Q, the terrible, terrible thing of a 15-year-old girl being taken from her classroom and strip searched by 2 police officers, I determined to find out how widespread was this and that this must not happen to another child. Well, my goodness, I've been really saddened and horrified by what I've found.
That's the thing, isn't it? That people were shocked by child Q, and this morning they're waking up to news that we should be really shocked.
Yeah, and I mean, this data, I have had to go out and find it. I've had to use, as Children's Commissioner, my statutory powers to find this data from every single police authority in the area. The data's come back to me in various forms. It's not very well kept. The first thing I want to happen is that this data should be publicly available. It should be done properly. Look, what I've found is that children, the police aren't even keeping their own rules. So children, first of all, you know, up to 50% of them without an appropriate adult, the first thing you should be doing if you're strip searching a child is thinking about, you know, calling home and letting the parents know. Children have told me years after their strip search that they've only just, because of child Q, they've only just been able to tell their mum what happened to them.
But given those rules were already in place, and given your findings show police weren't in half of cases getting an appropriate adult, what's going to change with this report?
Well, even before we get there, not just having an appropriate adult, I found strip searching taking place. It's meant to take place in a police station or in a, you know, maybe in a medical facility or at the child's home. There have been strip searches in fast food outlets, strip searches in car washers. I thought child Q would be the only child strip searched in a school. No, up to 14 strip searches in school and in the back of police vans. So location as well. And
how do you respond to what the policing minister has said today in terms of, I guess it's a justification, him saying that the drugs are concealed in intimate body cavities, but he's saying that these children are coerced and abused by drug dealers. They're victims, and then they're being made to be victims again, aren't they?
Honestly, there are, look, there are, I can imagine, and I've talked to senior police officers, I've talked to the minister in the past about this, there are no doubt cases where a child, because they're carrying a weapon, could well be a risk to themselves or to others, where very quick action needs to take place. But frankly, if it's drugs, it's very bad, but they can be taken to the police station and mum called, you know, and an appropriate adult found. It's very traumatic strip searching. Just think about it. A child has to take off their clothes, have their clothes taken off them, and then a visual search of their private parts, including moving around of their private parts if necessary.
No, it's unthinkable. Just briefly, we're running out of time. What can be done about the number of black children being searched? I know it's a big question, but if you could give us a short answer, please.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally unacceptable. And parents, you know, parents of black children are really, they're shocked. They're shocked but not surprised. It's got to get better. We need to keep calling for the data. What I want are for the police chiefs to step up, to get their act together, to make sure that the policies on this take the bar higher, and that they make sure what's happening on the ground is within the law.
And they are, I know, examining your report findings today. Dame Rachel D'Souza, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
A clean-up operation is underway in Poole Harbor after 200 barrels of reservoir fluid, including oil, leaked into the water. The leak yesterday led to a major incident being declared. Ellie Pitt is there. What's the latest, Ellie?
Nina, the latest is twofold, really. First is that containment of the oil spill and clean-up operation you mentioned. We know that more than 100 people have been involved in that since the early hours of this morning. And the second is an investigation into how exactly this oil spill has occurred in Poole Harbor. What we know is that yesterday morning there was a leak from a pipe under the water between a nearby onshore oil field and Poole Harbor. That leak was of around 200 barrels of oil, of reservoir fluid, which is made up partly of salty water and partly of oil. We know about 4,000 litres of oil has made it into Poole Harbor. And as a result, of course, you can imagine there are serious concerns for wildlife and the impact on the natural habitat here. Poole is one of the largest natural harbours in the world and designated a site of special scientific interest. And the public here are still being urged not to swim and go into the water because of yesterday's leak. And that could be troubling for the tourism industry here, given that the Easter holidays are just around the corner. Now, Poole Harbor commissioners are leading the investigation and the response to the oil spill, and they spoke to us a little bit earlier on.
Well, I've been Chief Executive Poole Harbor Commissioners for 21 years. We've never had an event like this in that 21 years, so it is very rare. But there are three tiers of oil spill response. One is small, one is very big, Tier 3. We're in Tier 2, which is a medium size oil spill.
Perenco, which runs the oil field, has given us a statement and said that it's important to stress that the situation is under control and the discharge of fluids has stopped. But we are expecting an update inside the next hour with a clearer idea of just how significant this spill is and how quickly it will take to clean up.
Ellie, thank you. Finally, the show will go on. To the delight of her legions of fans, Adele has announced her Las Vegas residency is not yet over. She says she'll return in the summer. Here's Sharon Thomas.
So I am coming back.
They'd travelled from all over the globe to hear this news.
I'll be back for a few weeks in June and I'm going to film it and I'm going to release it to make sure that anyone that wants to see this.
The London-born global superstar told fans on Saturday night exactly what they wanted, that she's returning to Las Vegas. Adele's admirers had waited a year for her opening night at Caesar's Palace in November, after the singer tearfully announced with just 24 hours to go that she was postponing due to COVID and logistics.
It's been impossible to finish the show, and I can't give you what I have right now, and I'm gutted.
But their wait was rewarded. A 4-month residency, 34 shows, 4,000 people a night, among them James Corden, and at her final gig on Saturday, Adele's guitarist snapped with former Welsh footballer Gareth Bale. Adele is the best-selling female artist of the 21st century in the UK and has sold more than 100 million records worldwide.
And then I'll be back from the summer. I'll be back in August until the end of fall.
News that she'll be returning to the same venue for more gigs later this year, deafened Vegas on Saturday.
But also it's such a vibe in this room.
And it's clear Adele herself is just as delighted. Sharon Thomas, ITV News.
Mary's back at 6:30 from me. Bye-bye.